The first hurricane that I went through was Hurricane Bill in 2009.
Hurricane Sandy in 2012.
The first story is about like 2002, 2003 hurricanes. Don't remember the names because I was really small.
So it was Hurricane Matthew, 2016, here in South Florida.
It wasn't even here. I flew through the hurricane to get to Bermuda. So literally the most turbulent, and I'm terrified of planes, so it was like the worst experience ever.
Okay, so I went through a hurricane when I was a kid. I'm pretty sure it's Isabella in like 2003.
So Hurricane Sandy hit on like a Sunday or something, and we lived near the beach in New York, and we were evacuated right away, like before the hurricane hit. And we stayed at a family friend's house, and we get there, and like the night the hurricane hit, the person that we're staying at, they get a call, and like their father was really sick, and he was taken to the hospital, and then a few hours later he passed away.
My dad said that the winds would be strong enough to hold up my body weight because I was small. I was like a kid. So he basically told me to go outside during the hurricane, probably like the eye of the hurricane when the wind was the strongest. And he told me that if I leaned backwards against the wind, it would push me up so I wouldn't fall. So I believed him, obviously, because who doesn't trust their dad?
My roommates and I were really freaking out because our house is not very hurricane proof. So we were running around putting cardboard up, putting tape up everywhere. We were bringing everything inside. We were freaking out.
And so I went and stood on the steps of my swing set, like against the wind, and then I started leaning back and quickly realized that that was not true. And I fell flat on my back off my swing set, and my dad just laughed at me.
And it was in like the DC area in Old Town. I remember like Old Town was like flooded, like a foot of like water everywhere, and like the biggest thing was that our power was out for like 2 weeks, and that was like a really big deal because like I couldn't charge my Game Boy and stuff. Like it was like horrible.
Okay, so when I was in elementary school, a hurricane hit Florida, and I live in Tampa Bay area, so on the Gulf of Mexico. My house was right on the beach, and we were in a huge flood zone. So my parents sent me inland to Tampa to my grandparents' house.
And then we landed in Bermuda, and about 2 days later, the hurricane actually caught up with us and hit us. And the way that Bermuda is shaped, it's kind of like a horseshoe, and all the hotels are on the inner part of the horseshoe. So when the hurricane hit, it really wasn't causing much damage to us, but you could watch everything that was happening, which was like super weird.
Well, we had to wait out the storm, and then the hurricane hit, and then the next day we had to go all the way to New Jersey, go to a funeral, and there was no gas, and we were really concerned that we were not going to have gas because I live all the way out in eastern Long Island. And we got back to the Hamptons, which is where I'm from, and we had 17 miles left in our car, and we just like weren't sure if we were going to make it back, but thank God we made it. And then the family friend that we were staying at, their entire family came and stayed at their house because they all had lost power.
And then the hurricane didn't come. Yeah, we just had to take all this stuff down. We all left too. We all left the house. We were so afraid that it was gonna flood or something like that. And it was for nothing.
So we actually, in Tampa, lost power, had to light the oven with a match just to boil water to shower because we didn't have access to water. We had to bathe in the pool. So we put shampoo in our hair and like jumped in the water for like 2 seconds and then ran back inside because it was lightning out. And we played board games the whole time. So I was young and it was exciting, but it was actually safer on the beach.
We were all just really bored because there's no power and stuff. So after like 2 weeks, we're all like at a neighbor's house to have like a neighbor like barbecue and stuff, and we're all chilling and bonding and stuff. And then I will always remember in the middle of this party, one of the neighbors in the house just like bursts out the door into the backyard, and he's like, "Everyone, the power's back on!" And everyone just scatters. We just leave the party and run home, and we're just like, thank God.
We had chickens trying to come into our room. We had frogs trying to hop inside because everything was just trying to like find shelter somewhere. My little brother at the time, he was 10, he actually tried to let the chickens in, which was awful. And we had to like scurry them back out of our room.
And it was just like the worst experience. We were evacuated for 3 weeks from our house. There were boats in the middle of the street. We had our foundation washed away in the storm. Our house sank. We were just like a mess. My brother's car was ruined. My car, thank God, was okay, but it was a mess. We had no school for a few days. The school had no power. We had no internet. thank God the house we were staying at, we had internet, we had power, but we were evacuated from our own house, which had no heat for 3 weeks. And then we got home, and it was crazy.
They didn't lose power, it didn't flood. My mom had a hurricane party, so they were all partying on the beach, and I was inland in a safer area without electricity. So that's my awesome story.
And the next day was even worse for all the wildlife because everything had been displaced. So I remember like trying to get into our room, and like this toad, it was probably like this big, is like sitting in front. Me and my mom are very like girly people, so we didn't want to go anywhere near it. So we literally like had to wait outside of our room for an hour until it chose to hop away by itself. But that was definitely a scary thing, like being away from home for it, and also just never experiencing one before. That was the first one, and I survived.